Well, good morning. Welcome. When we last left Job, he had just expressed great words of hope in the middle of his response to Zophar. Today, in chapter 14, Job returns to great frustration as he finishes his response. Job notes that man's days are short and full of sorrow. This is indeed true. Even the longest of lives is but a splash in the pan of a splash in the pan of eternity. We all experience sorrow and tribulation. It's the result of sin. Now, not necessarily specific sins, as Job's friends are falsely saying, but just simply the imperfection caused by sin in this fallen world. Job's mood and his confidence in those things that he believes in seems to kind of go up and down throughout these exchanges. Job seems to question if there really is an afterlife. Later, Job will make a very strong confession of his confidence in life after death. But at this particular point in time, it appears as though he is wondering, as Job notes that a tree stump will put forth new life, but a man planted after death seems simply to be no more. Thus, Job flat out asks, if a man dies, will he live again? Well, soon he's going to answer that question with a resounding yes, but for now at least, he seems to waver. Job ends his response by noting, the slow, immutable forces of nature, like water wearing away on a rock or torrents washing away soil, how much they remind him of how he feels as his hope is being, ground down by the relentless pressure of God's heavy hand on him. Chapter 15 then begins a new round of discourse between Job and his friends. In the first round of discourse that we just finished, Job's friends went from subtly telling him that the calamities that have befallen him are a result of some specific sin that he's committed, so he has to repent of it, to, actually the last was pretty much a tactless berating of him, communicating the same basic idea that surely he's sinned somehow, and that's the problem. That's why he faces such evil. Well, in this particular round, Job's friends seem to dispense with any semblance of tact whatsoever. Eliphaz begins again. He's the first to speak again, possibly because he's the eldest of Job's friends. And this time, he comes out with guns blazing. There's no subtleness or no gentleness like there was in his first speech. This time, he just comes out guns ablaze. He accuses Job of being full of hot air. He accuses Job of spouting nonsense. He even accuses Job of being impious and of obstructing devotion to God. In particular, those last two accusations are really in direct conflict with God's assessment of Job. Remember, God found Job to be righteous and blameless before him. Eliphaz bombards Job with sarcastic questions that imply that Job thinks that he's wiser or more insightful than his friends are, which actually Job really is, right? But that's for later on in the book. Eliphaz then speaks words that are correct and true. So right after speaking something that's not true, Eliphaz speaks something that is true, which is part of what makes it a little bit difficult to read through these chapters of Job and discerning what's right and what's wrong as far as what people are saying. But Eliphaz starts with the correct analysis that no man is righteous before God and that all are corrupted by evil. But then he draws a false conclusion. The false conclusion he draws is that God always punishes evil in this life, and that is why Job is suffering. Well, once again, Eliphaz is trying to push Job to admit to whatever its sin is that he has committed. Of course, it's not correct. Job has not committed a sin to cause this evil to befall him. And for many people, that's actually that are involved in sin and so on, they actually live quite happily throughout this life. Even though they're steeped in evil, they still live quite happily in this life. Their time of punishment doesn't happen until eternity. That's when God guarantees that he will punish those who do not repent. God really says nothing about them about them necessarily being punished here in this life. They may be, but not necessarily are they. So Eliphaz, he just doesn't seem to get that. He doesn't understand that the innocent may indeed suffer unspeakable evil in this life. Yet that is exactly what his friend Job is doing. In chapter 16, then, Job begins his reply to Eliphaz's second statement. Job rightfully labels his friends as miserable comforters, whose long-winded, useless arguments make Job wonder what's wrong with them. It kind of seems that no one's mincing words anymore, doesn't it? Job notes that he would not treat them that way, but he would offer them comfort and he would bring them relief. So Job gives up on his friends and he turns to God, as there seems to be no point in continuing to talk to his friends who just don't get it. Job begins to tell God how he is despised, how he's gaunt, how he's insulted with words, insulted by others, his friends, and so on. And he uses words that remind us of Psalm 22 and actually of Jesus at his crucifixion. Job doesn't yet know that it's God's love that is letting Job suffer. It is God's love that is testing him and strengthening his faith. It's not God's anger burning against Job to punish him, but Job doesn't know that yet. Job weeps in his pain. His faith is tested in his trial. It certainly seems to falter. Just listen to the things that Job says as you read through, but it doesn't break. For even though it appears that God has abandoned Job, God still sustains Job. Finally, Job appeals again for a mediator in heaven, a witness to present his case. What prophetic words! For we do have a mediator in heaven, one who pleads our case to the Father. And of course, that is Jesus Christ. It's Jesus Christ whom Job appeals to, even though he doesn't yet know that. Clearly, Job lived long before Jesus did. Jesus is our advocate. It's Jesus who pleads our case. Now, the very last verse of chapter 16, in that very last verse, Job's mood turns again dour. And tomorrow we're going to wrap up Job's response to Eliphaz with more comments on his disappointment with his situation and with his friends. So we'll gather again tomorrow and we'll do that. May God be with you today. May he bless you. I pray that your reading of these discussions in Job's is edifying for you and that you will grow from it. May God be with you and bless your day.